Reverend Fr.Stephen Theodore Badin was the first Catholic priest ordained in the United States. He spent most of his long career ministering to widely dispersed Catholics in Canada and in what became the states of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois. Early life. Stephen Theodore Badin was born in Orleans, France, and educated at Montaigu College in Paris. He began theological studies at the Sulpician Seminary there, and had been ordained a deacon, but was forced to flee in 1791 with other Sulpicians as the revolutionary government closed the seminary and further persecutions were expected. After sailing from Bordeaux to Philadelphia with Benedict Joseph Flaget and J.B. David, Badin completed his theological studies with the Sulpicians and was ordained a priest by Bishop John Carroll on May 25, 1793, in Baltimore, Maryland. He studied English with the Jesuits at what would later become Georgetown University. For much of his missionary work would be among the Maryland Catholics now settling across the Appalachian Mountains, as well as with Catholics of French descent who had settled in the Great Lakes region. Missionary Fathers Badin and Michel Barrier set out on foot for Kentucky on September 3, 1793, about a year after Flaget. They crossed the Appalachian Mountains, then took a flatboat down the Ohio River to Maysville, Kentucky, from where they walked to Lexington. Badin went to White Sulphur Springs, Kentucky, and established a mission named in honor of St. Francis de Sales. In April 1794, Barrier left Bardstown, Kentucky for New Orleans, but Fr. Badin established the home base for his missionary journeys on Pottinger's Creek, perhaps after consultation with Jean Dubois. For the next 14 years, Fr. Badin traveled on foot, horseback, and boat between widely scattered Catholic settlements in Kentucky and the Northwest Territory. One estimate puts his travels at over 100,000 miles. In 1806 he received permanent help with the arrival of Rev. Charles Nerinkex to the relief. In 1808, Bardstown became a diocese in its own right, with Benedict Joseph Flaget as the first bishop, although he did not arrive at that post for another 3 years, and the following year returned to Baltimore with Fr. Badin to discuss land title and other problems. J.B. David was ordained a bishop and named Flaget's coadjutor in 1817, but he tried to refuse the difficult position. Badin returned to France in 1819, perhaps after continuing controversy concerning land titles near Bardstown or anti-Catholicism, a race, and the eviction of the Choctaw Native Americans. While there, Fr. Badin ministered to 2 parishes, Millenni and Mariley and Gault, near Orleans, the city of his birth, for several years. However, he also worked constantly to secure gifts of money and church furniture to send to the Kentucky mission churches. In 1822, he published a Statement of the Missions in Kentucky. Fr. Badin returned to resume his missionary activity in the America in 1828, first to Detroit and other early settlements in what became Michigan, then returning to Kentucky in 1829. In 1830, Fr. Badin offered his services to Bishop Edward Fenwick of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, which oversaw missionary work with the Potawatomi Indians, particularly with Chief Pokagon and the St. Joseph River Band headquartered near Niles, Michigan. For that outpost, Fr. Badin visited Fort Dearborn in October 1830, and possibly several other times. In 1831 he built a log chapel on the shore of St. Mary's Lake in Indiana on the site of what would later become the University of Notre Dame. This chapel burned down in 1856, after most of the Potawatomi were relocated west to Council Bluffs, Iowa, and pursuant to a treaty signed in Chicago in 1833, Fr. Badin was named vicar of the Diocese of Bardstown in 1837. He continued missionary work as well as defended Catholicism, particularly in a series of letters to an Episcopalian friend published in the Catholic Telegraph of Cincinnati in 1836. In September 1846, Badin accepted a position offered by Bishop Quarter of the new Diocese of Chicago, and became pastor of the French settlement at Bourbonnais Grove, in what became Kankakee County, Illinois. Fr. Badin remained there for 2 years before taking one last missionary trip through the Kentucky Diocese in 1848. He also gave considerable land to the Diocese of Bardstown, Louisville, and wrote a poem in French about the Battle of Tippecanoe. Badin gave 524 acres of land near South Bend, Indiana to the Diocese of Vincennes, which had been created in 1834. This later became the site of the University of Notre Dame. Badin also organized the first orphanage in the state of Indiana in 1834, under the direction of 2 religious women from Kentucky, Sister Lucina Whitaker and Sister Magadalen Jackson. Later years and death. About 1850, Fr. Badin returned to Cincinnati, although his friend Bishop Fenwick had died in 1832. His successor, Bishop John Baptist Purcell, offered the aging missionary a place at the bishop's residence. Father Badin also served at St. Mary's Church in nearby Hamilton, Ohio. He died at the old Episcopal residence on Plum Street in 1853, and was buried at the cathedral crypt. In 1906, his body was reinterred at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana, in the recently completed replica log chapel on the site of the chapel Badin had erected there 8 decades earlier. Legacy: a Catholic high school, Father Stephen T. Badin High School, located in Hamilton, Ohio, was named in his honor. There is a Badin Hall on the campus of the University of Notre Dame in Indiana.